Hello everybody, and welcome back to my Bible study. Now, I'm not 100% sure if this is going to be an extra episode or if it's going to be in place of the episode for the week that I am recording for right now. But I'm going to try to have this be like a separate series going alongside my main Bible study to address questions that I get along the way, because I've gotten a couple so far that are good questions. So the first one, I'm going to go through them in order that I get them, and if I get them around the same time, I'll do the one on the video that was released first, and then the one that's on the next video along the way if I get them in similar time frames. But so the first question I'm going to be discussing was on my introduction to the entire study by Kofi. Their comment was, "I like what you are doing. Please discuss the difference between translation, transliteration, and interpretation. Thanks." So they said more, but that's irrelevant to this video. So, and I've already responded to it. So I never heard the term transliteration before. I asked my pastor this morning if he knew, and he gave what he thought it might be. And then I asked my friend who's been driving me to and from church, and she said what she thought it was from what she had understood of the word, because she had heard it before, even though he hadn't. And they both gave the same definition, which, from what I'm looking up, is not quite right. Because the way they were describing it, it sounded like interpretation. But transliteration, the word transliterate, the dictionary definition is to transcribe into corresponding letters of another alphabet. That's the British Dictionary definition of transliterate. And I looked up somewhere else, it says, what's the difference between a transliteration and a translation? Which, it agrees with the translation part that I've always known, is a translation tells you the meaning of the words in another language, like Elgato means cat. However, transliteration is the act of changing letters in an alphabet to the corresponding similar sounding characters of another alphabet. So it's like taking the transcript of the Hebrew text and just putting it into the characters used in the English alphabet. Like writing out desu instead of putting the characters for desu in Japanese. Or something like that. Which desu, I believe, means cute. I just chose a word. It means is. Desu means is. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but that's how I'm pretty sure I am, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not as fluent in Japanese, so don't take me literally. So that's all transliteration is. It's just taking the Hebrew text and okay, I'll cut that out. So that's what transliteration is. It's just taking the Hebrew text and taking the characters and translating them into the exact letter of what it is. So there are times in the Bible where it uses the word Elohim in the Hebrew version. But in our translations, it gives us what that word is specifically talking about. Like whether it's talking about God or angels. That's what we get in our translations of the Bible. But if we transliterated it, it means we would just be looking at the word Elohim written in the style of the English language versus the style of the Hebrew language. Translation is the act of taking another language and translating it into another. So where it says Elohim, it says God, or it says angels. And the word love is a perfect example of that. There's a lot of different words that are talking about love in the Hebrew language. However, in the Hebrew language, those different words for love have different meanings. Like agape means unconditional love, and there's a Philippian love, which I'm not entirely sure what that is. So let's look that up. That's not how you spell Philippian. What is Philippian love? I'm pretty sure he said Philippian. Love is patient, love is kind, that kind of love. Which is true for all love, in my opinion. But it's talking, I guess Philippian love is talking specifically about those verses that talks about what love is in Philippians. And then there's agape, which is unconditional. But in the English language, we don't have words to specify different kinds of love. Like we don't have words to specify that it's brotherly love, or familial love, or romantic love, or whether that love is unconditional or not. We have to add words to the word of love in order to get those contextual meanings. Where in Hebrew, they have words by themselves that give the contextual meanings to love. So that's part of the problem with translations, and that's why it's helpful to have something you're looking at alongside it to tell you what the original Hebrew word was. Like how it's helpful to know that these places where it mentions God, it uses Elohim in a singular sense, and places where it's talking about angels or divine beings, it uses Elohim in a plural sense in a way that shows that they're not at the top. Which I never even knew of the word Elohim. I didn't know that that was a word and used in the Bible at all until I was at my church up in New York and we went through, I don't remember if it was Seeing the Unknown, or if it was the Seeing book, or if it was Imagine Heaven. I don't remember which one it was, but it was one of those studies that I went through with the pastor. And I really loved those studies, and I do plan on going through those studies at some point. I don't know if I want to go through them at the same time as I'm doing my regular study, or if I want to go through them after. But because it's going to take me a long time to get through this book. I mean, look how thick it is. And I've recorded 3 episodes going through Genesis, and I've only made it through chapter 1, verse 23. That's as far as I made it so far in 3 episodes. So I might start doing something else along the side. I'm not 100% sure on that, though. So I'm not making a promise. I'm telling you a possibility. So anyway, now the third word they said that they wanted me to compare here is interpretation. Interpretation is here. Let's get the dictionary definition here. Dictionary definition. The action of explaining the meaning of something. An explanation or way of explaining. Stylistic representation of a creative work or dramatic role. Now, here's the thing with interpretation. We are only human. We can make mistakes. We can interpret things the wrong way. We can also interpret that not to say that we don't ever get things right. And the thing with interpretation is that you've got to be really careful. Because if you interpret something one way and it's not the right way, you can take that and run with it. Like some people interpret the fact that Jesus died for our sins and he gave us salvation, and the fact that we can never lose that. Once we're a son of God, or daughter of God, we are a son of or daughter of God. There's no taking that away. There's no undoing that. It's the same concept. We can't change who our parents are. I'm my mom's daughter. There's nothing I could do that would change that. Some people will use that, and they'll use God's grace as an excuse, and the fact that it's continuous as an excuse. Oh, well, I can go and sin. It's okay. God will forgive me. But there's a difference between sinning, asking for forgiveness, accepting God's grace, and just using God's grace. You don't use God as or use God's grace as an excuse. But there are some people who will literally interpret it as, okay, as God's grace giving you leeway to sin, to willingly go out and sin, knowing that what you're doing is wrong, and not feel bad about it at all. Which, actually, and this is my interpretation of this that I'm about to say. My friends and I did a discussion once about blasphemy. Because one of my friends at one time was concerned about whether he was blaspheming. And usually, here's a clue is to know whether you're blaspheming God or not. If you're worried about whether or not you're blaspheming God, you probably aren't. Because the act of blaspheming God would be to know what he's telling you to do, or to not do, and doing the opposite and not regretting it at all. So you're basically saying, I don't care what you say, God. You're basically flipping him the middle finger and just doing your own way, not caring one iota about what God has to say about what you're doing. As long as you care what God is telling you to do in your life, or what to not do in your life, you probably don't have to worry about blasphemy. That, again though, that's my interpretation. That's an example of an interpretation. I don't know 100% sure that is a correct interpretation. But God has not corrected me on it yet. Another example of an interpretation would be the whole, like what we were talking about back in the episode covering verse 1. And in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Some people interpret the Bible story of creation as God spoke and suddenly everything was. Another interpretation, which I follow, which would makes more sense to me based on what science has told us, is that God's timeline is different than ours, and yes, it says 7 days, but that's 7 of God's days, not necessarily 7 of ours, and it could have happened over a great many years in our years. You know? that's another example of interpretation. So that's taking what is said in the Bible and putting meaning behind it. Sometimes you can be right and sometimes you can be wrong. And all these arguments I see between people about interpretations, I find to be silly. You can debate it. Feel free to debate. Debate is how we learn different viewpoints from what we personally hold. And it's okay if you don't change their mind or if they don't change your mind. It's okay. As long as it's not a matter of salvation, it's fine. The matter of salvation is that Jesus Christ is Lord, that He is the Son of God, and that He is God, which that's a topic we'll get into at some point. I think we'll be starting that soon, because I want to say we're coming up to a verse that mentions something about it soon. I know there's something in Genesis that touches on it, because I remember going back to Genesis from the previous verse further on in the Bible before we're having the discussion of the Trinity. So we'll be discussing that soon, I think. How soon? I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. Why is there game audio coming? Should be on home. There should not be any game audio coming out of my Elgato. There. It is gone now. I don't know what that was. I'm a little curious to know. I don't know. Maybe it was just saying that something was done downloading. Sorry for the distraction there, guys. I was so confused because I have to have my Xbox on or something going that's going to my Elgato in order to have the screen, because Elgato is while I have fights with Elgato, it's much better for recording than the camera on my computer itself. So, yeah. That's the differences between translation, transliteration, and interpretation. I'm not sure if I covered everything that there is to know. And I'm sure the more I look, the more I will find. And there might be a part 2 to this discussion. There might not be. But for now, I'm going to leave this off here. And in the next episode of this bit of the study is going to cover the second question I got, which there's a lot to the answer for. There's a lot in the Bible to answer the next question, and I'm a little excited to do it. So I'm going to go do that right now. In the meantime, though, thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe down below if you want to see more. Let me know if you have any more questions in the comment section, or any questions of your own, or what you think. Any input to add to this discussion as to what the differences between translation, transliteration, and interpretations are. And in the meantime, don't forget to keep it real, spread the love, and stay determined. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye. Bye.